Jonathan Fibonacci, wide open spaces here. Beautiful Colorado. Now this is what I would call, now see, I'm from Oklahoma, so here you go. This is epic to me. I mean, I'm from Oklahoma, so, you know, there's all kinds of things about Oklahoma I love, but in terms of landscape, if you love nature, there's just no better place than beautiful, the Four Corners. So one thing I thought I would do is I'm going to kind of do a break from, you know, normally I think I'm just more of a kind of a filmmaker. I'm more of a director. I enjoy being behind the camera. I enjoy presenting ideas, but I don't necessarily enjoy being, you know, to me, that's beautiful. But, you know, you put a little Fibonacci in there. I guess that's cool. We can do that. You know, there's, I guess I'll call this, if Viola Davis were your neighbor. In fact, I wanted to talk a little bit about, I guess, maybe I should just make this, nah, fuck it, Viola Davis. I love Viola Davis. I gotta, you know, there are rock stars, and then there are musicians, and then there are actors, and then there are artists. And like Viola Davis is, I don't know, she's kind of like the J.K. Rowling to me. You know how we're just now realizing all the things that J.K. Rowling did with her books. I mean, she like literally taught like 1 billion people to read. And like Viola Davis, I don't know if you've ever watched her last Academy Awards speech, but her speeches are as good as her acting. I mean, we should literally have like the Viola Davis awards. Look at that. Come on. There you go. Hopefully that came out. We'll see in my, I guess, post-production, which basically is me just uploading this to YouTube. So where am I going? If Viola Davis were your neighbor. And I really just want to highlight a person who I love. And you know, on this channel or on this journey, I've had all kinds of journeys. I mean, let me just kind of recap it, because I think I'm going to take a pause. I don't know how long I'm going to keep doing this channel. It really just started as an experience. You know, I kind of went through some dramatic shit and then thought, you know, well, fuck it. Let me just start a vlog. You know, I like to write, but who reads anymore? I mean, I think the average literacy level in America is, well, Google it. And in fact, put it in the comments. What is the average literacy level in the United States? So I thought, well, fuck it, I want to change the world. How am I going to do it? If people are reading, they're not reading. The only people who are reading are really people reading because of wonderful people like J.K. Rowling. I'm speaking about her because I read once what she did for literacy as a whole. And her life isn't just about selling gazillions of books. I mean, her story, I mean, literally went from homelessness to changing literature. And I'll tell you a story. I ran into, I was at the gym and I saw this girl, she had a tattoo, and I asked her what the tattoo meant, because I'm that guy that always asks, what does your tattoo mean? And she said, oh, it's something from, and she mentioned one of the books that J.K. wrote. And then that girl was telling me, she was in college out here at Fort Lewis, and she said, yeah, you know, she kind of was talking about what J.K. Rowling did for literacy. Now, there's one thing about being a good writer. There's one thing about being in the publishing business. It's one thing to be a successful writer. It's one thing to change literacy. And that's what J.K. Rowling did. So there are like real epic people, the Fibonacci's out there. These are like the Viola Davises. These are the Garth Brooks. These are the J.K. Rowlings. These are the holla niggas that I'm like, what the fuck do you want to call them? Just Fibonacci hollas? I don't know, dude. Just Jonathan Fibonacci. That's the only thing I got today. Is if, just imagine if Viola Davis were your neighbor, what would she say to you? It's kind of a joke I'm working on. But I guess let me call it like an open source joke. You know, we have open source technology. We have open source digital platforms. But I think I want to change the world. And I think at 41, I think there's a lot of arrogance to that. But I want my voice on some level to have an impact for good. And I guess that's just what happens when you turn 41, you know. And you lose your kids in a corrupt civil court, and you lose your business simultaneously. And you have some decisions, you know, like the RTD2 bird that's talking over there. It says you have some decisions to make. You either do or die. You either get better or get bitter. And, you know, the spiritual path, the journey that I've been talking about, the Jonathan Fibonacci holla, whatever words you want to put on it, it's really just my desire to change the world. So what if I only change the world for 50 people? What if I only change the world for 100 people? You know, I do a lot of work on the Texas civil system, helping men get fair trials in their civil system, which most people don't give a fuck about. I mean, but you have to care about the civil courts if you have sons, because you might not care about Jonathan Fibonacci's, but if you have sons, you don't want them to be mistreated in those courts. And are we willing to have an intelligent discussion about that? So what if I only help 100,000 men do better in their civil courts? That's a life well lived. What if I can, in some way, use my comedy, my love of comedy, my love of cinema, to say something that will help 50 people? That's a life well lived. In fact, let me close out. Nobody likes long videos. I saw where George Lucas, it's probably one of the best, worst videos I've seen online. There's probably about 25 minutes of internet stuff, shit, that is really, really worthwhile. Like George Lucas's stuff, J.K. Rowling's commencement speech, anything where you're watching Steve Jobs, Viola Davis's speech, anything by Denzel's speech. I mean, there's just some really good cinema, some Janis Joplin, some good documentaries. But if you were to reduce it, it's probably about 100, maybe, let me be generous. What if there were 45 minutes of internet time that was actually worthwhile? Well, Jim Carrey's speech would be there, but then George Lucas. And you're like, George Lucas, the guy from Star Wars, you're quoting the guy from Star Wars? Yes, I'm especially talking about the guy from Star Wars, George Lucas. And it's a speech on selfishness and compassion. And he says simply and succinctly that there's two types of people. There's people who are compassionate and people who are selfish. And he says the people, and he just go watch it yourself, the people who are compassionate live on the light side. The people who are selfish live on the dark side. I mean, it doesn't get any more simple than that. So those are the ideals that I'm going to start with. The George Lucas, the J.K. Rowlings. These are the things I've already said in this journey, in this Jonathan Fibonacci YouTube vlog. So I thought, how many times can you say the same thing? I mean, George Lucas, it took him, how many times did it take George Lucas to try to tell us about the light side and the dark side? How many times? And did it have an impact? Probably not. Were you entertained? Immensely. Now we're in the era, the genre of the David Prowses, the Viola Davises. These are where I think the holla niggas are coming in, where this is where I think Jesus in his epicness says, all right, I've waited long enough. I'm sending the beautiful purple people. What is it about purple? What is it about the color purple? I don't know. But if I start this channel again, if I start up, we're going to talk about the color purple and beloved and all this shit you've already heard before. But maybe I'll say it in a way that you'll finally hear what people like Viola Davis, people like George Lucas, people like fill in your blank. Jonathan Fibonacci is out. Go live a compassionate life today. Practice active, intentional compassion. And then where you go from there, I guess, is up to you. That's your own Fibonacci journey. And by the way, one of the people that we could be most compassionate to is we could be compassionate to ourselves. And I think especially ourselves. Charity begins at home is the old Mammon saying to justify when we don't really want to help other people. But practice compassion and practice, if we're going to spend all this amount of time on the internet, let's at least practice and find some good shit. Anything with Viola Davis, or go watch that Jim Carrey speech, or maybe Jonathan Fibonacci will be your tour guide. I don't know, come up with a good tagline. Just be nice. No, don't be nice. Remember, nice people go to hell. Good people go to heaven, and there is a heaven. And Jonathan Fibonacci is out. You guys be good. Thank you for taking this journey with me. Come. Best dog in the world right here. Love this dog. J-Bug, K-Bug, I love you so much. Love you guys.